Well, here we are. It's Sunday. It is August 6th. That means that we are going to be reviewing another edition of AEW Collision, specifically the one that happened on August 5th. What year? You're saying 2023, just in case you're going back in the back catalog, like in the year 2099. I have shed my mortal coil, and somehow I have become the seminal voice of the past of professional wrestling. You never know. It could happen. I won't be there to figure it out. I won't be there to bask in that glory either. Not unless, they come up with, proper cryogenetic processes to preserve bodies and brains. Look, thank you for being here. Hope you're having a lovely Sunday. I sure am. Got to hunker down with this edition of of Collision. So look, we're going to get into it, but before we do, likes on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes are appreciated. So are subscriptions. That way you won't miss a thing. The same thing over on the audio side of things. 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts, 5-star ratings on Spotify. They help out a great deal. And you can also join and follow me and subscribe to my stuff there as well. Because look, it's been G1 season. It's coming to an end. Like, we are officially in the final week of the G1. We have 2 more nights of G1 block action to happen. Then we have the playoffs. You have the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and the finals all happening a week from. The finals are happening a week from now, from a week from today. So, if you want to stay abreast of all of that, and if you want to catch up, I have all my G1 recap, daily recap, and reviews available both on the YouTube channel and on audio as well. So, it's a good time to hang around Mr. Warren Hayes because, for 2 reasons. First of all the content, all the great analysis and content that you've come to expect from me. That's the first reason. And the second reason, I've finally been vaccinated against the mange. So you will be mange free. Collision was brought to us over in Greenville, South Carolina at the Bon Secours Wellness Arena. Lots of French over there in the South. Bon Secours. According to WrestleTix, the setup was for 4,133 people. 3,449 tickets were distributed. We're about 1,000 tickets lower than last week's. I mean, last week was a big show, was a big event. I don't expect this show to do as well in the ratings, but I might be wrong, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Because look, as far as collisions go, as good as Collision was last week. How about we start that way? As good as Collision was last week, this was a little mid. Couple of notable things happening, a couple of, good matches, but nothing much going on, nothing happening on the show. Last week was just a series of stuff that was going on. And honestly, if it wasn't for the All-In match announcements, this would have been a pretty uneventful, a very uneventful edition of Collision. It's definitely one that we won't be talking about again anytime soon, not unless something weird happens, and it's pro wrestling, so it might. But the show opened up with the AEW World Tag Team title match. FTR successfully retained their titles against Big Bill and Brian Cage. Since we're in South Carolina, we're paying homage to Dennis Condrey, who Dax invited to the ring, actually. Invited to the ring to join them at the end for a proper homage. Nice little moment where Dax continuously reminded us how much he loves his wife and how he takes care of his family. He has the perfect little daughter. I mean, good for him, right? I don't know if you've listened to it, but sincerely, look, there's a fine line that I want to make sure that you all understand what I'm not making fun of here. Pro wrestling has such a litany of dudes being jackasses and terrible to their wives and their families in general. Like there's the rigors, and he said it himself when he was talking about Condrey, was out, out in the road like over 300 days a year, never being with his family. He says, it's thanks to guys like him that I'm able to take care of my family. And so, I will never poo-poo Dax for being a big old softy and saying, I love my family. I'm completely okay with that. The only issue I have is that he brings it up all the fucking time, and it's like, okay, brother, we get it. We get it, and that's fine. Are you making it your personality? Because it's a little weird. That being said, I'm also glad. Here's another thing I'm glad for. I'm happy for. I'm glad and happy. I'm glappy. They're giving more time to this Brian Cage Big Bill duo, which I was a little bummed when the Eliminator tournament ended, and I was like, are we done with these guys? But no, like everyone saw something here. Clearly, Tony Khan saw something there, so he's been giving a little more gasoline to this fire. Let's keep going. Did Nana sort of imply that Big Bill was part of the embassy now? Did I sort of get that? Is that a vibe you guys got? Or maybe I'm missing something. Maybe, someone in the comments is going to be like, duh, Warren, he did join the embassy on this, social media post. Oh, okay. If it's a social media post, there's a fair chance I didn't see it. But I like Cage and Big Bill rules as a team. And this is as physical as you can think a match like this is going to be. Dax can't lift Big Bill for a shatter machine. So instead, Bill chokeslams Cash onto Dax. Bill beats up Cash in front of his mom. Okay. She's smiling the whole way. Well, Cash's mom at ringside, he has her wave or whatever. And then she has like this dopey, I'm so happy to be here smile. Like, no, somewhere between I'm happy to be here and this is making me quite uncomfortable. Like a true melange between the two. Something that you just bring together and you get a perfect expression that conveys two separate emotions. So while Big Bill is pounding on Cash and he calls out to her, this your son, and she's going, she's got this big smile as if it's like, yes, Mr. Bill, yes, Mr. Big Bill, that is my son, please do not beat up on me. But then she takes a swing at him too. Like she slaps him across the face. I can get the smile at that point. But her expression did not change. It was fantastic. Look, as it stands right now, as far as wrestling moms go, Sue is still pretty on top of the pile here. I don't know if anyone heard if Sue brought cookies at the taping of the parking lot brawl. I'm sure she did. FTR do a Steinerizer. Cage does the Samoan drop sack of shit combo. Jackhammer and choke slam stereo by the heels as well, but the Shatter Machine gets it done. No big surprise. Well, things really got dark here if you're watching on YouTube. I guess the sun just got, it doesn't matter. Look, we have a little more ambiance. There's a little more atmosphere to what we're doing now. It's a little more intimate. Hey, how you doing? I need to get like some blackout shades or something, right? Some blackout, but not blackout shades. If I'm going to keep doing these things during the day like this, I have to do something because there's no way to purposefully do quality control here. Or just go plain old audio. Leave a comment. After the match, FTR make the challenge to the Young Bucks for Wembley Stadium. Now we're cooking. Now that's a match. That's something that fans everywhere, I believe, can get behind. And oh my good God, the discourse is going to be absolutely insufferable. I already hate it, and I'm ready to give you enlightened, clear takes as opposed to, this weird, elite CM Punk adjacent bullshit nonsense. I saw a lot of people surprised at this, and I was like, well, What didn't we know like a few months ago that the Bucks and FTR cleared the air and they were like, yeah, if we want to work together, we'll work together kind of thing. Like, wasn't that, I feel like that was straightened out. It's just CM Punk really right now. And if I remember correctly, the Jacksons, these are the last holdouts. You have to think that eventually this is all going to blow over, that everything is going to clear up. You have to think so. The opposite doesn't make sense. These are grown men. What the hell are we doing here? You know what I mean? Grown adults. But this is a big match for Wembley. This is a huge match for Wembley, and it's going to be excellent. Like this is a show stealer. It's a potential match of the night, potential match of the year. Like it has everything. You know, people are going to throw huge expectations behind it, and they should, because you have one team, you know, outright claiming to be the greatest tag team of all time, and another one that is arguably the greatest team of all time. They're inarguably two of the greatest tag teams of all time. How about that for some common ground? But there's not going to be no common ground here. There's going to be, all the bad faith actors are all going to be out there. Me the Elite, me CM Punk, me FTR, me the Bucks. You know, it's all going to be this bullshit again. We're going to go through all of this again. And oh my God, if the Bucks win, which, you know, my gut reaction, let's see how this build goes. But if Wembley was happening tomorrow and this match was booked today, right? And you reached out to me, you picked up your phone, you called me and you said, hey, Warren, I want you, I need to ask you a question. And I'd be like, how the hell did you get my number? But that doesn't matter. Warren, you have to tell me right now, who do you think is going to win, FTR or the Bucks? I'd say the Bucks. And what are we even doing thinking that the opposite is more interesting? The Bucks have to reclaim their title. Look, the Young Bucks have been too good for too many people for too long. This is part of their company. You know, they did the trios thing, whatever that was, turns out. A lot of people were excited for the trios titles. You remember that? And the whole build-up, now you get the trios titles and you're like, you're like babies tossing things aside. And you're like, oh, well, the trios titles. Like, no one cares, right? Anyway. What was I talking about? Yeah, the Bucks winning. The Bucks have been too good throughout the entirety of this run in AEW to not jump in and not have... Tony Khan should not let this match go by and not put them back on the Bucks and have them have a run. There are still tons of dream matches to be had with the Bucks in and about the AEW environment. So there's no reason for this not to happen. I don't see why you'd keep them on FTR at this point in time. Now let's have this discussion in 3 weeks when it's time for Wembley. Maybe my tune will have changed. Maybe, I don't know. But right now, out the gate, gut reaction, gut feeling. You put them on the Bucks, give them to the Jacksons. What are we even doing here? But good opening match. I thought this was fun. I thought it was a good time. Strong, well put together. Brian Cage, when he does a tope con hilo, and I think I've said this before, but I'm going to reiterate it because it's important. When he does his tope con hilo, the crowd goes nuts, right? And tope con hilo is it's not necessarily the most uncommon move, but it doesn't necessarily get the crowd out of their seats, as hard. But I promise you, seeing Brian Cage do that in person, okay, seeing it live, television does not make complete justice to how fucking big Brian Cage is. Having seen him live, in person, in a ring, when he is there, he just takes up a lot of space. And when he does the tope con hilo, you pop out of your chair. Because he really is too big to be doing that kind of shit, but he does it. And he does it well. So yes, I get the audience who go, whoa! Even though it's a move that's, It's a bit of a transition move. We see it a lot. There's something special when he does it. I honestly don't know what people's problems are with Brian Cage. There's a lot of wrestlers that there's a lot of people who have problems with wrestlers. And I don't know what their problem is with. Anyway. I don't want to go off track. I really don't. I feel like it. I know I'm close. I'm really, really close to be going off track, but I don't want to do it. Not for that. Where were we? Backstage, Bullet Club. They bully Tony Schiavone. It's fine. AEW TBS title match followed. Kris Statlander defeated Mercedes Martinez. They start off striking, but it's also a little weird. I find the beginning was a little weird. It seemed a little off. I didn't know if they had a miscomm, but whatever happened got into shape fairly quickly. Whatever wasn't clicking started to click. Statlander with a back breaker on the floor, spinning power slam as well. Mercedes Martinez with the spider suplex, and looks fantastic, don't get me wrong. But Kris Statlander lands the Big Bang Theory, but Mercedes kicks out. What? She called the Saturday Night Special. I don't remember what she calls it. I try every time to remember. The Saturday Night Big Fight, Saturday Night Fight Night. I don't remember what it is. It's the Big Bang Theory. Back and forth, more strikes. Statlander gets her with the bridging pin. After the match, Martinez argues with the ref. Then she attacks Kris Statlander. Diamante, recently signed Diamante, runs down the ramp, slides in with Martinez, and they double team Kris Statlander. Both beat up on her. Willow Nightingale comes in once again for the save for our girl Statlander. So Mercedes, who looked very good here, by the way. Nice, solid work. Again, like outside of that nugget from the get-go where I was, I sort of went, oh no, come on. It's like, look, you need this. The women need this. Come on, girls. Let's but it worked out. Everything worked out and everyone looked good. Mercedes looks fantastic. Like, as far as a professional wrestler, like she wrestles, I want to go off on so many tangents, but look, her experience shows she's a vet. She is talented. She knows what she's doing in the ring. And if she starts pairing up with Diamante, the more I think about it, the more I'd like Mercedes to have like a clan of people around her, right? A stable, if you want to call it, a faction, whatever your word of choice. Have her own like faction of badass, kick-ass women. I think that'd be great. Toni Storm is being interviewed backstage. She has officially entered her Joan Crawford period. Her hair's up in curlers. She's wearing a robe. She's asking Tony, am I not talented or beautiful anymore? What is there left of me here, Tony? And Tony's like, Tony tries to answer, but she's always cutting him off. He tries to be, he's on the verge of saying something very, comforting and reassuring. It's like, well, Tony, it's just just one defeat. You'll bounce back. You're fantastic. But she never lets him finish. I'm appreciated around the world, world renowned. She freaks out. She's just completely losing it. I think this is an interesting little bit here. I thought this was really funny with the curlers. She's got her hair up. Like this was clearly the dejected, 1950s starlet here, movie star, who's starting to be overlooked for the shinier, younger things. Right? Joan Crawford. I'm convinced this is her inspiration. Samoa Joe squashes Serpentico in the squashiest squash that ever squashed. We've got 14 seconds on Cage Match. Ian Riccabonzone was putting this over as the quickest, the fastest match in the history of Collision in all the 8 weeks. I mean, but after the match, Joe challenges CM Punk at Wembley Stadium. Basically saying that their legacy of what they had together deserves more than just a roll-up finish. So we're going to give CM Punk another win at Wembley over Punk. There we go. We're gonna even out the cards here. Gonna make sure that Joe doesn't, run away, still beating him in the feud. I joke, but not really, but just a little bit, but also not that much, but also really. To be completely honest, I think Joe is right. I think the legacy of their matches should not end with the very middling match that they had, the okay match, the fine match that they had at during the Owen. It should be a bigger match. Get an Andrade El Idolo hype video. I don't know why that's not how you do it. Andrade El Idolo hype video. And Tony is back. Tony Schiavone. He's having a sit-down interview with the acclaimed Anthony Bowens and Max Caster. Of course, they're sitting there with Billy Gunn's boots. The boots that Billy Gunn removed and left in the middle of the ring a couple of weeks ago. Bowen said they've spoken to Billy, but he won't take his boots back or change his mind in regards to retiring. Oh God, it's happening for real, isn't it? The acclaimed blame themselves for letting Billy down, though, but they're going to keep fighting and they're going to carry his boots everywhere they go. And then Bowens asks Billy, who's sitting at home, to throw up the scissors one last time and scissor me daddy ass. And that's how I know this is an angle, because like that is just the stupidest. But like wrestling stupid, like the good stupid in wrestling. It's like, scissor me daddy ass with a tear in my eye. Scissor me daddy ass. It's like only in pro wrestling. And we're not done with Billy Gunn. Hey, if they want to do a thing where the Acclaim start losing matches and they've lost their mojo and they just, they're distracted, whatever the fuck. They lose a few big matches and then Billy Gunn comes back and then the magic returns and then they have a trios run and they beat that's very good storytelling. That's very good storytelling without 14-minute promos or without trials. But for real, I'm feeling very sassy this afternoon. I think there's absolutely something to this. Have them come to the, you bring the baby faces to the brink of destruction, and they rekindle, recapture their magic, move forward, become trios champions. I think that'll work. Look, they got owned by the House of Black. And in the meantime, House of Black can continue beating the shit out of people. They're going to beat the shit out of CMFTR next week, which was a match that was announced, by the way, on Collision. I'm not making this up. AEW, since we're talking about the House of Black, AEW World Trios titles. In a open House of Black house match rules. The House of Black defeat Action Andretti, Darius Martin, and Lee Johnson. Big shotty Lee Johnson. And what was their stipulation? Julia Hart gets banned at ringside. Now listen, this is the second time that this rolls, okay? I don't necessarily recall, outside of what Julia Hart did at the with the Andrade ladder match against Buddy Murphy Matthews last week, I don't recall Julia Hart being that much of a component in the wins of the House of Black. I feel like the House of Black are terrifying enough and are a solid unit enough to be like, no, we don't need outside interference. And this is kind of the point here, right? So this is the second time she gets banned. The first time it was like, oh, goofy, because it's the Chuck Taylor, right? The best friend is like, I'm afraid of witches or whatever. She scares me. So since she, and now like Julia Hart gets banned in rings. Who cares? Who cares? The funniest thing to come out of all of this was Julia Hart, who is dating Lee Johnson. She's walking away and she's staring up at him and you can't hear her, but you see her say, "You're not getting any. And I thought that was pretty funny. And that is absolutely a break of kayfabe, but I don't give a shit. I thought that was funny. But look, we need a team to come in now with a cool stipulation, with something that'll just be like, that will put the House of Black at a disadvantage. Do you think Malachi Black was sitting there going, oh no, not Julia? How about, this would be my stipulation, Brody King can only tag in once in this entire match. Like, do something that will give you a legitimate advantage, you know? The House of Black cannot use their kicks. Christ, they're all fucking strikers. Malachi's finisher is a fucking kick to the jaw. Can a stipulation then turn it into a 3-on-2? Let's make this a handicap match. Like, right now, as much as I thought that the house rules concept, I was like, oh, this is going to be fun, it's turning out to be, you know, a cake that hasn't risen. The cake is very flat. Didn't have time to rise. You got to cook this a little more. Now, come on, let's do something interesting next time we have this stipulation stuff. Anyway, the story in this match, though, is that the lighter guys pull out all of the moves to take down the House of Black, but the House of Black is too powerful for them. The lighter guys, they do moonsaults and crossbodies. Lee Johnson does a moonsault into a double DDT slop drop thing, which was pretty cool. Andretti does an SAE moonsault, but like I said, House of Black are just they're too kinetic. There's a word you don't hear very often in wrestling reviews. Discus Lariat by Brody King puts Darius Martin away. And that's where we learned that House of Black and CMFT are a fine match. I mean, nothing to write home about. But just like, okay, let's do this. Let's move out of the way. Backstage, QT Marshall says he's going to give Hobbs gold chains. He's got them in a box, and he's got Harley, what's her face? The rapper. Harley Cameron. Right? Yeah. And she's there, and they open up the box, and it's like, there's the gold chains. And he says, I'll give you gold chains, plus I'll give you a win at All Out on a silver platter. And Hobbs is like, I don't need you. And I'm like, no, he doesn't. But he takes the gold chains and leaves. And is, what is that? I'll give you on a silver platter a win at All Out. What does that even mean? I don't even know what that means. And this is dumb, and it's annoying. It's annoying. And I hate QTV. I love QT Marshall. I hate QTV. Why is it that we have to walk Powerhouse Hobbs out of this story when, instead of just having everything like poof disappear and we don't have to mention it ever again, when the Swerve Strickland Keith Lee stuff was just poof, you know, we stopped talking about it. We stopped making it into a thing. That just happened, and everyone was okay with it. Like, I don't know. It's annoying. Christian Cage is backstage with Luchasaurus, and Christian Cage's daughter. And he's upset. Darby Allin is mentoring an 18-year-old, snot-nosed 18-year-old. And his daughter interrupts his promo. She says, can I hold the belt? Christian Cage says, did you win it? She says, no, then you can't hold it. And he says, go see your mother. And as she walks off screen, he says, security, she's not credentialed. Tell her to hit the bricks. What a piece of shit. That's awesome. Jay White defends. He defeated Metalik. Big meh of a match. Nothing special, nothing good, nothing bad, but the coldest performance Jay White has put on since coming into AEW. I don't know what happened here. I don't think this was very good. Like, average, like bog standard average. Just like, you know, Metalik does an SIE moonsault that connects on Jay White as Jay White is just sliding under the ring. That was the only cool thing of the match. Blade Runner puts Metalik away. This was a misstep. This wasn't it. Are we trying to make Jay White come across as a big singles guy? Because that ain't it. And then the main event happens where the real AEW World Championship was put on the line. CM Punk versus Ricky Starks with Ricky Steamboat as the special guest enforcer. So this was a match where both guys used their fundamentals, right? Because I want to preface this by realizing that there's a lot of people who really didn't like this match and thought it was boring. I didn't think it was boring, but because there was a good pace to it and what they built to was interesting. And I saw this early on when they were using they were just using fundamentals. They weren't trying to outclass each other. Lots of back and forth. Lots of just basic wrestling stuff that eventually that helped build the story, right? It's part of the story. Nothing wrong with it, but you can absolutely argue that this was kind of boring and there was a bit of tedium involved. I enjoyed the pace. I could see what they were doing, but I absolutely get someone who goes, this was shit. They also build Steamboat's impartiality during this match here as well by getting Punk back in the ring after he mounts and ground and pounds Ricky Starks on the floor. Steamboat is like, get back in there, and then he being Ricky Starks, he keeps Starks from using the ropes as well. So he's calling it down the middle, calling it down. JR was there, by the way, and they hugged, and JR said, not a more honorable man in pro wrestling. So you want to keep that reputation up. Want to make sure there's no shenanigans. But there's a ref bump. Now, I'm not excited about it, but it will, absolutely predictable when you have, outside enforcers and whatnot. Ricky Starks rolls up Punk after the ref bump and places his feet on the ropes for the count. And I'm like, why is he doing this? Why is Ricky doing this? The ref just got knocked out. Because it wasn't clearly established that Steamboat, or maybe it's just me, but it wasn't established that Steamboat could run in and do the pin. Because Steamboat stayed on the floor, kicked the legs off. He should have got into the ring and he should have stayed in the ring. Where you're like, oh, okay, he's taking over the match, Because I thought that was weird psychology by Ricky Starks. I thought it was very strange psychology. I don't understand why he did that. So Steamboat, like I said, admonishes Ricky Starks. He, after knocking his feet off the ropes. So CM Punk rolls him up. 1, 2, 3. Oh, Steamboat gets in. 1, 2, 3. Like it's the longest roll up of all time. Because of course, look. Ricky Steamboat at his age, is probably not as spry and has as lightning quick reflexes as he once had. So it's forgivable, but the finish was very weird. And I don't know why they just didn't do CM Punk finding a way to hold the ropes while Steamboat can't see, just to stick it to Ricky. I feel like that would have been a lot more fun. And a logical continuation to this idea that CM Punk is no longer playing nice. He doesn't want to be a good guy anymore. I don't know. I don't want to sound like I was defending the match. It's just I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's as bad as another match that we saw this weekend from another company. Because the pace was there. It was just interesting enough, but I think it was a little too long. I think the layout of the match for 20 minutes was a little too long. But ended up having I thought a good final third. I thought the final third of the match made a lot of sense for everything that the guys did in the previous 2/3 of the match. That's how it goes, math, see? But when it comes to the finish itself, that wasn't great. It wasn't great. I'm sure it looked good in everyone's heads, but the execution of it, I don't know why they thought, look, we'll do a lightning quick reaction. We'll get, elderly statesmen Ricky Steamboat to jump in lightning fast, call the match. I don't know. It was weird. I think he should have been, if he had been in the ring after Ricky Starks did the rope thing to firmly establish that he's taken over the match, right? He stays in the ring instead of going back out. I think if that would have happened, I don't think we'd be sitting here really bitching about it. But it was all right. Well worked. I have, my quibbles are, on the very specific things that affected my overall enjoyment of the match. But overall, it good, well worked. Can't say anything bad about it, but you can't come out here and say this was fantastic, this was great, this was the greatest thing I've ever seen. Absolutely not. And this wasn't necessarily a great episode of Collision. I thought it was fine. Like I said, mid, and sure, there was little bits and bobs here that made me laugh that I thought were entertaining, like, the Tony Storm stuff, that's something that I enjoyed. I like I like the two first matches of the card, and then I think we started circling the drain. Christian Cage, that thing was pretty funny. There's a few things that I really did enjoy, but there's a lot of stuff here was just okay. And nothing was really happening on the show, which again is weird when you consider how close we are to Wembley and we're still not, promoting this match down everyone's throats. It's kind of weird. It's just kind of weird. I've talked about this. I think I don't remember where I talked about it, but it's not as much the idea of you have to have your entire card set up, but it will likely be the biggest, most attended pro wrestling match in the history of professional wrestling outside of the Collision in Korea show where, everyone was mandated to go. It was your civic duty, or else you might run into some issues down the line. So that's something that I would be just shoving down everyone's throats. That it's the biggest this, the biggest that. Look, WWE never miss a beat. This is the biggest Raw in this market ever. It's okay. Sure, you're doing great business. Plus, your ticket sales have been inflated something fierce. And ticket prices for everything are huge. So sure, of course, you're doing fantastic business. What do you think? I'm a dope? You think I'm But nonetheless, makes you look good, makes you look big. You sit down, you negotiate with your media partners, and you're like, look, this is the kind of business we're dragging in. Media partners go, ooh, that's interesting. That big, huh? Is it bigger than the WrestleMania? Yeah, it is bigger than the WrestleMania. Oh, wow. We're going to leave it at that today. If you haven't watched it, you can absolutely skip it. It's like if you haven't watched Collision this week, it's fine. It's fine. You didn't miss much unless you really want to see FTR defend. If you want to see Kris Statlander's best match and she came back, go right ahead, But there's nothing that you can't miss on this card, on this show. Very, very, very ordinary edition of Collision. How about that? Hopefully this edition of the Collision Review wasn't all that ordinary and that you enjoyed it a great deal. Thank you very much for popping in. One more hard sell for the likes and the subscribes and the reviews and the ratings. Otherwise, we'll be back on Tuesday for both the G1 Climax 33 recap and the MrWarrenHayes show taping at 7 p.m. Eastern live right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. So wherever you want to pop in, I'll see you next time.